Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premier Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super hero, that is, because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
You are way too smart, way too talented, way too good to be where you are. You are meant to be making way more money, feel way hotter in your body, and having way more fun. Hi, I'm Nicole Mitchell, and I'm a life coach. I help you get hotter and richer. If that is what you're looking for, you can find me at NicoleMitchell.com. My name, Nicole, is with a K, NicoleMitchell.com. You can reach out to me on my website or on Instagram, and I will be happy to be in touch and figure out what you're looking for and how I can support you in getting there.
The views and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the program's participants and do not necessarily reflect those of station staff, management, and advertisers.
I think we're ready for Brandon now. Brandon, okay, you there?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Thank you for being here, Brandon. I appreciate it. How are you?
I'm blessed.
Thank you for being here. So a lot to get to in a short period of time with you, Brandon. What do you make, first of all, on the riots that are taking place in LA? And do you think Gavin Newsom should be arrested? Because apparently that's what Donald Trump wants. He said that today.
Well, I hope that while we're talking, we get to some of the other things that have been said about me by you online.
Sure.
I think we can get to that at some point. However,
you can start off with that if you want to. It's up to you.
I do think that Gavin Newsom bears responsibility for the outrageous behavior that's going on in California. He bears responsibility for the lack of appropriating or appropriately dealing with immigration, allowing illegals to just run rampant in California. All that we see now, the actions from ICE, all of that is because of the lack of leadership from the mayor and governor of California.
So all of our immigration problems in this country are
immigration problems in California. We specifically are talking about California. Gavin Newsom, you asked me the question about California. So the immigration issues that we see, the enforcement that we see from ICE are because of lack of leadership. If there were no illegal aliens in California and they were doing their job and allowing law enforcement to work with Border Patrol, historically, we wouldn't have the things that we see going on right now. We wouldn't have people being detained from Home Depot and all these other different places. We wouldn't have it. That's why you don't see that as rampant in other states as you do in California.
Well, it's also a bigger state. I would also say that it's a little bit larger than some of the other states. So I think that might have something to do with it. But I want to go to what you just said. What are your issues with me and the things that I've said about you? I'm happy to have a civil conversation with you about that. You said I had Trump. You said I had Trump derangement syndrome on the Piers Morgan show, which I thought was absolutely absurd. But go ahead, I'll give you the platform to do it.
Yeah, for sure. And also you said that I was an idiot. You said that all kinds of things. You said a grifter, amongst many other things, which I think is insane to me. I called you you had Trump derangement syndrome because on a topic that didn't involve Trump whatsoever, which is the topic of Kanye West, you brought up Trump. None of the Trump supporters brought up Trump. Nobody else brought up Trump. Pierce didn't bring up Trump. You decided to bring up Trump and add him into the fold in such a ridiculous way.
Well, it's not ridiculous.
Why I mentioned that.
It's because it's hypocrisy. You see, what happens, in my opinion, with people like you, and I'll go into why I said those things, because you've called people a lot of names as well, but I'll go into this because it's hypocrisy, okay? When people like you want to talk about, what's going on in LA right now and officers beaten, which, by the way, I don't care whether it's a Black Lives Matter protest or January 6th. It's wrong. I think we both could agree on that. But when Donald Trump, the man who you support, calls them patriots and hostages and pardons them, you being a former police officer, you guys are only pro-police when it fits your narrative. That's why I bring up Donald Trump, because it's hypocrisy. And I was having a conversation with Jack Posobiec. You interrupted on the Pierce Morgan show and just randomly said I have Trump derangement syndrome, which is an 8th grade insult. The reason why
What did you say to him then? What did you say to him?
What did I say to him?
Yeah, what did you call? What did you say he was doing with Donald Trump?
What did I say he was doing
in a sexual manner?
Trump? The reason why I said that is because you entered. You can laugh or you can choose to listen, Brandon.
I'm listening and laughing at the same time, dude.
Okay,
it's hilarious.
I'm glad you could do two things at the same time. But what I was referring to, you interrupted and you said Trump derangement syndrome. I actually thought it was Jack that said that. But if you notice, if you go back to the video, I said that after you interjected that, which again is an 8th grade insult.
What did you say to him though, specifically?
I think it was something along the lines of Donald Trump wearing Donald Trump knee pads, which I think you wear. No,
but you also said that he was doing a sexual act with Donald Trump. You
actually, I'll say it to you. I'll say it to you so we can be clear on this. You said I had Trump derangement syndrome. I wanted to get into more productive conversations. But if you want to go down this path, I'm happy to do that with you, Brandon, because I do appreciate you coming on the show. So if this is what you want to do, that's fine. I said you have Trump fellatio syndrome. You fellate Donald Trump, Brandon, every day. You don't criticize him for anything.
You want to put some facts out here real quick?
Well,
you talk about Donald Trump far more than I ever have. You can look at the last 5 videos you uploaded. They've been Trump and MAGA.
I'm
not known for being a Trump supporter. I'm known for talking about police issues, social issues. Anybody can look at any one of my videos. The last 5 uploads, you can look at the top 20, 30 videos that I've uploaded of all time.
Let's talk about that. No problem, Brandon. Let's talk about that. Have you ever criticized, you're being a former cop, have you ever criticized Donald Trump for calling those who attacked January 6th police officers?
I did.
Hostages and patriots?
I did. I said it on the news. I said it everywhere. You didn't, watch my content.
Say it here.
You never watched my content. I don't agree with Donald Trump pardoning everybody from the January 6th. I thought they were complete idiots for what they did on January 6th. I thought it was wrong. I don't think that they should have done that. I said it everywhere that you could hear me say
why
it.
did Donald Trump pardon them?
Well, I don't know. I mean, he has his reasons. Some people were wrongfully in prison. Some were. The ones who did not get violent with police officers that were just in the Capitol building did not cause a ruckus. I'm not talking about them.
I'm not going to argue that point.
Those are the ones I'm talking about. Now, if you fought a police officer, you need to go to jail.
I agree.
There's no ifs, ands, or buts. You fight a police officer. I don't care if you disagree with the election. You need to go to jail, period.
I agree with you there. Why is it you always talk about George Floyd's criminal past? What does that have to do with what took place to George Floyd on that day when Derek Chauvin's a murderer? Can we agree on that?
Well, yeah, of course he's a murderer. I think Derek Chauvin's an idiot, and I think he should rot in hell for what he did. Now, I do think that you have to compartmentalize things. You have to put things in perspective. When people are trying to make George Floyd into a hero and saying that he was an activist, I'm not saying you are. I'm just saying the reason why I say the things I say. You have to put it in perspective that this guy has done more harm in the Black community than good. He literally was involved in a home invasion where he put a gun to a pregnant woman who was a minority's stomach, which he went to prison. No, it points to who this person was. Just because you died don't make you a saint. He was a bad person doing bad things. Unfortunately,
but you and me talking now. I can't control what other people say. I don't think George Floyd was a saint. But what I try to say, Brandon, is that he was murdered. I believe in part because of the color of his skin. I don't believe it.
I don't think so.
Okay, so you think if Derek Chauvin was black and George Floyd was white, you believe the same thing would have happened?
George Floyd overdosed in part on fentanyl too. So we got to add that in.
No, but that's not true.
He took a lethal amount of fentanyl.
Not true. There were 2 autopsies, Brandon. One was allowed in a courtroom, and they both found homicide. If what you're saying,
it doesn't matter that it's not just the fact or the actions that were taken by Chauvin. Chauvin was not arrested and prosecuted for intentional murder. He was prosecuted for unintentional murder. So that means that his actions unintentionally led to the murder of George Floyd.
But
however, in addition to what went on with George Floyd, it wasn't that Chauvin choked him, killed him. He did overdose. Now, Chauvin contributed to his overdosing. He did not render aid. And these are the things that Chauvin was charged with. It's not like George Floyd was in perfect health and Chauvin choked him unconscious. It did not happen that way. He exacerbated an overdose situation, which we in law enforcement call it excited delirium, which caused him to go down a path that he never recovered from.
But
Chauvin
Brandon,
never put him in a recovery position, did not show any concern for his life. And these are the charges that Chauvin got charged with, which I think were appropriate.
okay, but Brandon, there were 2 autopsies. Both found that he died from homicide, meaning the only way he could have died from a drug overdose was if he was forced drugs into his system, which we know he wasn't. I repeat, both autopsies by real professionals, not me, not you.
Autopsy is not going to determine if a person is guilty or not, meaning you're saying homicide. Homicide just simply means that the cause of death was at the hands of another person. So he OD'd and like for instance, Chauvin did not get charged with intentional murder. Chauvin got charged with the fact that he was negligent and not responsive to what George Floyd was going through. Therefore, George Floyd ended up dying as a result of a combination of things. His drugs in the system and George and Chauvin's actions.
You're right. There was drugs in his system, but I repeat again, the actual real professionals who committed the autopsies found it to be a homicide. If they thought
when you say a homicide, you're saying if it's anybody that dies, an autopsy result isn't necessarily a homicide. If a person is dying from gunshot wounds, the autopsy is not going to conclude it was homicide. The autopsy is going to conclude that he died from gunshot wounds. In the court of law, they're going to conclude that the person who shot him illegally shot him or unjustifiably shot him. So an autopsy is going to determine the cause of death. The responsibility is determined in the court of law. Derek Chauvin did not choke him and kill him. He overdosed from drugs, but Derek Chauvin contributed to his death, which is why it is considered to be a homicide, which is why they charged Derek Chauvin with unintentional murder.
All I can say is that's not what the court found. That's not what the jury decided.
Okay.
But I guess we'll have to agree to disagree on that one. Why have you said online that you think Caitlin Clark has been treated the way she's been treated because she's white? Have we not seen any other athletes in professional sports get fouled hard or treated differently because they're actually really good? You think all the players in the WNBA are fouling her just because she's white?
Well, I don't think every player is fouling her because she's white. Players have made mention and brought up her race when talking about Caitlin Clark. The fact that people are saying Caitlin Clark shouldn't have been in the Olympic team, the fact that people are, in my opinion, hating on Caitlin Clark when evidence has proven she is probably the best player in the WNBA. She was the best player coming out of college. Her records show that she is by far up and beyond better than any of the rookies that came in. The fact that she's getting criticism, they're mentioning it because she's a white girl. Many have said because she's white. That's the only reason why I'm bringing it up. Her getting fouled is a part of the game, but there are some players who have targeted her.
What player on the record has said I'm treating her this way because of the color of her skin?
Players on the record have mentioned the color of her skin when mentioning why she's as popular as she is. She's as popular as she is because she's good. There's no need to mention her race. But when people bring up her race in conjunction with why she's so popular, that leads me to believe that they're focusing on race rather than her merit, which to me, that means that everything that they look at when it comes to Caitlin Clark is looked through the lens of race to them, not to me.
All right. Well, you're entitled. You're entitled to your opinion, but is that why they fouled Larry Bird really hard? Is that why they fouled Michael Jordan really hard because of the color? Like, I don't understand. If I agree with you, she's probably the best player in the WNBA, certainly the most exciting player to watch. We agree on that. But what I disagree with is your, in my opinion, with respect, gross assumption that they're fouling her hard because she's white. Now, some players I disagree with that.
I did not say every player is fouling her because she's white. I do think some players are targeting her. Many have come out in the media and have been haters, and they bring up her race as the reason why she's so popular. And so that makes me, that's just like saying if a black person was a pilot on an airplane and he got an award for being an incredible pilot, and people are saying he only got that award because he was black. And the fact that his merits show far beyond the reason why he got the award. But if a person is bringing up the fact that he only got the award because of his race, I would conclude that that person is focusing on race, and every action that they take against him or criticism is based on race, which is racism. And so when they criticize Caitlin Clark, not on her merits, not on legitimacy, but they're adding her race into something that has nothing to do with race, then it leads me to believe that those players who are saying that, who then foul her, who then criticize her on the media, say she doesn't deserve the limelight, say she's not the leader of the WNBA, are doing it because of her race, which is racism, just the same way if they did it to a black person. That's just my opinion about it. I'm not in their hearts. I don't know what they honestly believe. I haven't talked to any of them. I'm drawing a conclusion.
I understand where I just respectfully disagree with you on that. I don't think they're targeting her because of race. I think they're targeting her because of a lot of reasons. Jealousy. She's the most popular player in the league, and she's.
Why are they so jealous of her though? Because there's a lot of other black players in the league. This has been a predominantly black league, and there's a lot of incredible black players in the league. Why all of a sudden is she the target of so much hatred and so much misunderstanding? I think that this, and I hopefully you agree with me, or people would agree with this, is that if Caitlin Clark was black, I do not think she'll be getting the criticism that she's getting. Angel Reese is incredibly popular, yet she's terrible at basketball, if you ask me. Why is she getting so much publicity with no criticism?
Well, this is where we will
agree. A girl that's far better than her.
Well, this is where we will have some ground where we'll agree. I'm not an Angel Reese fan. I don't think she's a very good player. I think she's extremely jealous and extremely ignorant. So we probably agree on that. But you mentioned race, Brandon. You are a contributor for Turning Point USA. You mentioned black pilots. Charlie Kirk was the guy who said, when I go on a plane, should I be worried if the pilot is black? As you know, there's no evidence to show that a black pilot has any less training than a white pilot. Why would the guy who I assume is your boss, I don't know if he's your boss, but you do work for Turning Point, why would he make such a racist statement like that? And are you willing to call that out as a black man?
Well, look, so first of all, I don't work for Charlie. I work with Charlie.
Okay.
Second of all, context matters. I know Charlie personally. So I know for a fact he's not a racist. I've been working with him since 2016, 17. So I know Charlie very well. Charlie was making a point that needs context to it because people are taking a little small excerpt of what he said and not really expounding upon his grievance. His grievance is that they have made it about race. They have made it a priority to say, we're going to hire X amount of black pilots. So what he's saying is that when I see a black pilot, can I believe that it's based on merit, which it should be, or are they putting a person in place because of the color of that person's skin? So he's not saying it's not really about the black person. It's about whether or not we can trust that they're getting people in positions who are minorities about.
But he's wrong. There's no evidence to suggest that a black pilot has any less training to be a pilot than somebody white. He's flat out.
No. I agree with you to an extent, but this is what the qualification says. A pilot can be here and qualified, and a pilot can be here and qualified, right? So if the more competitive pilot that you would like to fly your plane or competitive to hire on some of these airlines or fly private are going to be the ones that you want up here that's at the top of the food chain. Now, do I believe, and do Charlie believe, that there are black pilots that are up here? Yes. We should be focusing on merit. There's plenty of good pilots. You don't have to say that we need to have 6 more black pilots. You don't need to bring that up because you negate the merit base. So is the pilot good enough, or is the pilot here and you accept him because he's black versus accepting a black person that's the most competitive?
Well, let's talk
about the problem that is going on, and this is what Charlie was talking about, is when I see a black pilot, can I see him and say, this is the best person that they could have found that's the most competitive no matter what color? Or is this a person that just barely made it and they need 6 or 7 new black pilots or female pilots?
Well, I can tell you right now, none of my white friends getting on a plane are worried what the color of the skin is of a pilot.
You're bringing up, it's not that Charlie Kirk gets on a plane and worries, because Charlie Kirk probably flies 300 days out of the year. He's probably traveled most. He probably traveled private and commercial. He travels more than anybody that you know. So is he worried about it? No. He's bringing up a point in a discussion and he brought it as an example. If I see this, should I be concerned because they're focusing on race? They're claiming they're focusing on race versus merit. That's his argument.
Let's talk about merit for a moment, because I know you got to run here in a few minutes, and I appreciate your time. In the Republican Party, I think we could agree black people in this country represent about 12 to 13% of the country. Why do they only represent less than 1% of the Republican Party? If in fact it's about merit, are black people just not qualified enough or smart enough to be Republicans in the party? Why is there less than 1% in the Republican Party that are black?
Well, here's the question that you have to ask yourself. Do you think that the Republican Party is racist? That's the reason why there's not as many blacks.
Some are.
Yeah, okay, so you can say some are. Do you think that the party as a whole is a racist party that's not accepting the black people? So that's the real question you have to ask yourself.
So here's the way I would answer that. here's what we know for sure. 93% of black women didn't vote for Donald Trump. 80% of black men did not vote for Donald Trump. I would say as a whole, Democrats do more for people that are struggling, living paycheck to paycheck, and minorities than Republicans do. Republicans want to get rid of food stamps. They want to get rid of Social Security. They want to get rid of Medicaid. They want to get rid of most government programs that help people that are struggling in this country. So I would say as a whole, policy-wise, Democrats are doing far more for the black community than the Republican Party.
Okay. Now let's digest this. Black people are still complaining about racism. Black are still complaining about not having equal rights and all this other stuff. Now let's continue. Black people are the lowest when you look at population of education. Their schools are the worst. Abortion is the highest. Murder rates are the highest. The communities are the poorest. The communities are the most violent. So if the Democrats are doing that much for black people policy-wise, then why are black people struggling at the bottom of the food chain in every single category in our society? Also, black people, here, let me finish. Black people are becoming the minority. They used to be the majority minority. Now they're getting overrun by illegal aliens and foreign immigrants who come into this country that's going to dilute the black vote, and they're going to be irrelevant. Let me just give you a fact. Black people, and you said black women voted like 98% for Kamala Harris, and Donald Trump still won by a landslide, which means that black women, he won by a landslide, which means that black women's vote is pretty much irrelevant at this point. We go to black men. Hold on. Let me finish this one point, and then I'll get back to you. We'll go to black men. Donald Trump and the Republican Party have been gaining black male support since 2016 at a rate higher than any other Republican in history, just about. So those things matter too. So I'll give it back to you to respond to that.
Well, first of all, Donald Trump didn't win in a landslide. 49%.
He won every state.
Okay, hold on.
That's a landslide.
Okay, it's not a landslide or a mandate when you don't get more than 50% of the vote. He got.
It doesn't matter because historically we don't run our elections based on popular vote. We run our elections based on electoral college votes.
Okay, but you said
won every swing state.
I'm not saying he didn't win, Brandon, but when you use the term landslide, it was one of the closest elections in American history. If you want to talk about history,
it was not close.
Use that with you.
It was not close.
He won the popular vote by 1.4%. Did Joe Biden
the popular vote, or are you talking about the electoral college?
When you use the term landslide, you are making the case that more people in this country support Donald Trump than they don't. That is not true.
We listen. The reason why we have an electoral college is because people can get fair representation. It is not the fault of the president of the United States that California has a whole bunch of people in it. Most of, I would argue, millions of illegals in it.
He won.
And if they decide to vote in one way, that's not a representation of the American people.
He won the swing states by about 350,000 votes.
He won every swing state,
by about 300.
Every bellwether county.
Again,
he really won more. And he got more votes than any Republican in the history of the existence of the Republican Party.
Okay, but again, I'm going back to what I said earlier. It was one of the closest elections in American history. That's not a landslide, and that's not a mandate. I just disagree with you on the verbiage.
You can disagree, but what does the American people say? He actually won the popular vote, which a Republican hadn't done in 20 years.
1.4%. Right. He won by 1.4%.
But he won the popular vote, though. Mm-hmm. With all of the backlash, all the stuff that you say about him, him being Hitler and all this other stuff.
I never called him Hitler, so that's
you may not have said it. You may not have said it. Those are two different sentences.
Okay. Well, let's talk about that.
You said, and then also people call him Hitler.
Okay.
And he still won.
Well,
that's a mandate.
He lost in. It's not a mandate. I don't think you understand what the definition of a mandate is. With all due respect,
the American people spoke, and they wanted him in office.
Again, 49% of the people who voted for Donald Trump. So you keep calling it a mandate, and that's 100% not true. It wasn't a mandate. Let's talk about his character for a little bit, if I may, because
we need to talk about his character or his policies.
Yeah. We can do both. I'm happy to do both.
Which one matters for the voters, his character or his policy?
Everybody votes differently, Brandon. So I choose not to vote for an adjudicated rapist. I choose not to vote for a guy who dodged the military. I choose not to vote for a guy who calls our brave men and women suckers and losers or said
that's a lie.
Oh, okay. Well, if you think General Kelly,
go with facts. Go with facts. If you said that's not a fact.
So
that's an opinion. He's already said it wasn't true.
So if you want to say General Kelly is lying about it, then you can go ahead and believe Donald Trump over General Kelly. But he is a liable sexual abuser who's had 25 women come forward, including his ex-wife, in court documents, who said that he raped her. How do you look at your children and say, I'm voting for a liable sexual abuser, a guy who dodged the military? We know that from the doctor's family who wrote his fake bones.
Who did you vote for?
I voted for Joe Biden, 100%.
Now, you did see Joe Biden's daughter's journal, didn't you?
Here comes the whataboutism. You want to talk about
I'm saying, hey, you saying I voted for somebody.
I will happily explain that to you, but I'm very curious how you just immediately flip to what
I
about
don't care. You're
I know
saying
you don't care.
that
You don't
Donald
care about a
Trump's-
man who sexually abuses a woman, right, Brandon?
I
You
don't care if he
course
was
you don't.
if he was my pastor, if he was somehow raising my kids, then I would care. I don't care if when it comes to me voting for him for president. He's far better than the other
You can be a
candidates.
rapist. You don't care if somebody's a rapist. You don't care. You'll
I
vote
don't
for them.
believe. Here's the thing. Let me explain this, because what happened with him and that lady at Dillard's 30-some years ago with no witnesses, I don't believe that was true. I believe that was a witch hunt against him.
What about
You
the
said
20
what?
or 30? What about the 20 or 30 women that claimed they were raped by Bill Cosby? Would you say the same thing about?
They had. Well, this is the thing. Some of them had evidence and witnesses who witnessed him give them quaaludes and conversations that had been had.
Did you
That's
see
a
all the
different
evidence?
story. That's
they see
why
things?
Bill Cosby's in jail.
So
That's
you don't
not the
believe-
same thing for
Actually,
Donald Trump. Donald Trump
actually,
was
Bill Cosby's
not
in jail, actually.
convicted of a crime. This is civil liability. This is not a criminal act.
So the 25 women that have come forward, and by the way, Bill Cosby's not in jail. The 25 women that have come
He
forward.
was in jail. He got convicted. Bill Cosby went to
He
prison.
was. There are 25 women that have come forward that have said Donald Trump raped or sexually abused them, including his ex-wife under deposition. Donald Trump bragged about going into teenage girls' locker rooms.
Well,
I know you
why is
talk
he not
about-
in jail?
I'm trying to finish here. Just because he's not in jail doesn't mean he didn't do some horrible things.
The thing is that you're innocent until proven guilty in the court of law.
Oh,
So he's innocent of
so
any
is it the
criminal
Biden crime
act.
family?
Not unless you want to get sued. He's innocent of any criminal act.
He's a
against
34
anybody.
count felon. He's a 34 count felon. You do our
I'm saying
website,
of
right,
rape.
Brandon?
You saying the accusations of rape. I'm saying he's innocent
Okay.
of those things until proven guilty in the court of law.
Was he been proven that he's a 34 count felon?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so you have no problem voting for a 34 count felon who
What
goes
was
into
his felonies for?
teenage girls. Hold on a second.
What is his felonies for?
Hold on one second.
You can't
He
even
bragged-
say it.
Hold on one second. I'll get to that.
Okay.
Donald Trump admitted to going into teenage girls' locker rooms, beauty pageant locker rooms, without their permission, bragged about it sexually on the Howard Stern show. Do you care about that at all? Trump admitted it on the Howard Stern show.
How long ago was that?
Oh, so if it happened 30 years ago, you're okay with it?
Man, look, it's not relevant to me voting for him.
It's not relevant.
it?
Okay, that's fine. So if someone goes into, it's relevant for you when it comes to transgenders going into locker rooms. You hate that and you talk about it all the time. But
Let's
if a
talk
straight,
about it.
but if hold on. But if a straight man 30 years ago bragged sexually about looking at 15 and 16-year-old girls naked, you're totally okay with that. But you want to talk about transgenders going into bathrooms. Do you see the hypocrisy, Brandon?
No. Let's talk about it. I have never heard Trump say that, so I can't really verify. I'm just going off your words. I've
interesting.
never heard Donald Trump say anything like
Very
that.
convenient.
I never heard Donald Trump admit to a
convenient.
crime on Howard Stern and not get prosecuted for it. I'd never heard of that.
So he admitted it on the Howard Stern show that he
So
went
you
into without
admitted a crime on the Howard Stern show and didn't get prosecuted over it.
Well, he talked about it on the Howard Stern show.
No, he talked about
Right.
You telling me he committed a crime?
I didn't say he committed a crime. I said,
what is your
I
beef
didn't
with
say
what he's
he-
doing? If he
what
went
is
into
my
a girl's
beef?
locker room without their consent
Sure.
and they're
was the
underage, that's
owner.
a crime.
correct. He was the
He
owner.
looked at him naked, that's a crime. So
Okay.
you're telling me he admitted this on Howard Stern's show and
did.
nobody
I'm
did
not
an investigation into Trump?
I'm not telling you it did happen because he admitted
Well,
it.
I've never seen it, so I can't verify what you're saying.
Well, I mean,
what I'm
this is-
saying is that is not in the wheelhouse of things that I consider when it comes to Donald Trump. I have not heard of that. I do not believe he's a rapist. Donald Trump has been nothing but good for this country. He may have had
Really?
things
Was
he's done in
January
the
6th
past
good
just
for the
like
country?
everybody else.
Was January
But-
6th good for the country?
Right. Donald Trump, in my opinion, Donald Trump didn't have anything directly to do with what
Donald
people
Trump
did on
didn't
January
say,
6th.
if Donald Trump didn't say that the election was stolen and he conceded, does January 6th happen?
If-
Yes or no?
Well, let's put it this way.
Yes or no?
I don't know what would have happened, but
You don't
Donald
know?
Trump told them.
What?
Donald Trump told them not to be violent.
Wait, hold on. So
No,
you're
did
telling
Donald
me
Trump
that
tell them not to be
Hold on.
violent?
if you're
Did
telling
Donald
me-
Trump tell them not to be violent?
Brandon, you're not answering my question. If Donald Trump conceded and called like every other person has in our history of this country and said, congratulations, Mr. Biden, you're telling me you don't know and you still think that maybe
Well, because
January
Donald
6th
Trump
would happen?
wasn't the only one that thought that the election was stolen. He wasn't
Well,
the only person.
It wasn't.
There was people in other
Brandon.
states. There's
There-
people. Now listen.
yeah.
Can you listen? You got to listen. There was also people who watched the way the election went, watched it on election night. Tons of people were upset about the
cares?
results of the election.
Who cares? The earth's not flat. There's people that think the earth is flat. Doesn't mean they're right.
What I'm saying is that that alone could have caused people to have an uproar outside of Trump's
Because
control.
Donald Trump, after the election, said that it was stolen.
Did he say to not be violent?
You don't have to say. All I'm
No,
saying,
no. Did he say to not be violent?
He said go. He did not say go in there and beat up police officers.
He never told them to go in the Capitol. He said go and let your voice be heard peacefully on
But you're
record.
not answering my question. If Donald Trump conceded, which every other president in history has done, you're telling me you still think January 6th would have happened? Brandon, that's ridiculous.
Am I supposed to be a fortune teller? You're asking me to give
ridiculous.
A hypothetical.
They did that.
I don't know.
Donald Trump,
I believe that the election was stolen regardless of what Donald Trump said.
And
He
what
didn't have to
evidence
say
do you
it.
have of that?
I thought it was stolen.
And what evidence has been proven in a court of law, Brandon,
Well,
that
look,
happened?
we have seen whether it's proven in the court of law because they believe he didn't have enough evidence there to have standing. It's irrelevant to what people have seen.
Let me get this right.
They have admitted that there have been cheating in the election. They said it's not consequential.
Right.
That's
All
what
right,
they say.
Let me just understand this, Brandon, in context. So when it comes to Donald Trump and rape allegations and all that, you're like, it's got to be proven in a court of law. I don't believe he ever raped somebody.
It's not just proven in the court of law, brother. It's not just proven in the court of law from Donald Trump. There has to be some level of evidence.
And where's the evidence?
There is no criminal evidence.
And where's the level of evidence that the 2020 election was stolen?
No. If you're going to say this, then you got to shut your mouth about everything you claim Trump did because it was not brought to the court of law. Are you willing to do that?
You're claiming that, first of all, he was found liable for sexual abuse.
That's not criminal.
Okay, whether it's criminal or not, Brandon, he's a bad guy and he's treated women.
That's your opinion.
Okay, so you think bragging about sexual assault doesn't make somebody
Where
a
is
bad
he
guy?
bragging about sexual assault? I've never seen a clip in bragging about sexual
grabbing
assault.
women by the genitals.
He
I'm a
said
celebrity.
he said that they
So you're
like him
defending that
to
as well.
grab him by the genitals and they let him. They like it
Well,
when
you're
he do
defending
it.
that as
That's
well.
not a sexual assault.
He raw dogged a porn star right when Melania had Barron. Are you defending that behavior as well?
I wasn't there. How do you know that happened?
Oh, you're right. It didn't happen. I'm sure he just paid her.
Did he admit that it happened? Did he say it happened?
I believe everything Donald Trump says, just like you. I'm sure.
No, but listen. I'm a former cop. When somebody says this, another person says this. Is it proven or not? She said he did it. He said he didn't. Where's the proof at?
Okay, so let's believe Donald Trump then. He's not a habitual.
You can believe him or you don't have to believe him, but you can't make a declaratory statement to say that he did something and you don't have no evidence.
Right, but yet the 2020 election was stolen, Brandon.
That's my belief. I can't.
Okay. Well, guess what? It's my belief. It's my belief.
I'm making an opinion.
Rapist. That's my belief. Yeah, that's my belief. But it doesn't matter whether he went into teenage locker rooms. It doesn't matter the way he's treated women his whole life. None of that stuff matters to you, just policy, right? You don't call out Donald Trump for anything.
I call Donald Trump out on things that I know that are true about him, and I call him out on them.
Like what?
I don't know if any of those things are true. There's also been like the 34 felonies was a bunch of hill of beans. Nobody in the history of this country has ever been charged for the things they charged him with. He was past the point of prosecuting him. Then they brought up another. Like, you cannot tell me right now what he was charged with. You can't.
The 34 count felonies.
34 count felonies of what?
Bank wire fraud. I mean,
which is not a felony. None of those crimes that they claim he committed is prosecutable because they was past the point of prosecution. What they did was they created an extra. They said if you do this in the commission of trying to cover up something else, therefore they can make it a felony, and therefore now they can prosecute him. I don't know how many years later. Well, it was a bunch of hill of beans. That's why they never put him in jail.
You haven't heard about certain things that I brought up. When it comes to Donald Trump being convicted in a court of law, you call it a kangaroo court. You don't believe
it. You can say convicted or not. I just say I thought it was illegitimate, but you can say he's convicted. So what?
It's illegitimate, but how many times have you talked about the Biden crime family and Hunter Biden?
I talk about him just like I talk about what has happened with him. I'm not saying that it's proven in the court of law that he did it.
It hasn't been. It hasn't been.
But I do have concerns, just like the FBI has concerns, and they've investigated these things.
Right.
But Hunter Biden is clearly doing nefarious things. He got it on record. So was Joe Biden.
What did Joe Biden do?
Well, Joe Biden has top secret information in his house that was not secure.
And he cooperated.
The only reason that they didn't prosecute him because they said that he was not mentally there enough to testify in court. And that's the only reason why he didn't get prosecuted.
That's not 100% true. Also, he cooperated.
That's what her said, the investigator.
He cooperated with the FBI. Donald Trump defied a subpoena for a year, but you seem to be forgetting some actual facts here. Donald Trump defied a subpoena for a year. Joe Biden and his attorney.
Well, then why is he not in jail?
I'm telling you why. Okay,
why is he not in jail?
He's the president of the United States.
No, he wasn't president when they found this out. He wasn't the president.
When was he supposed to be sentenced, Brandon?
Before the election. before the election.
Okay, so I think you have your dates mixed up a little bit, Brandon, but that's okay. It's cool.
He's supposed to be sentenced before the election.
Okay, so
and then they move sentencing.
Donald
They
Trump
sentenced him before the election, but they continued the case.
So we'll see what happens after Donald Trump leaves office. But I think that the narrative that I'm hearing, Brandon, is you struggle to criticize Donald Trump.
What do you want me to criticize him about? Factual things that I disagree with Donald Trump doing, I will criticize him on.
How can you criticize factual things when you sit before me right now and claim that Donald Trump won the 2020 election? Brandon, with all due respect, you cannot spell the word
say
fact.
what you want to say. The man had more votes in 2016. 2020, he had millions more people, and in 2024, he had millions more people. There has never in the history of this country been a person that have won. Let me finish. That have won all the bellwether counties that he won in 2020 and didn't win the election. There's no president that won Iowa and didn't win the election.
Well, that's why
There's no president that got millions or more votes in his second term or his second run for office and didn't win presidency. There are so many anomalies that occurred in this election. That's why people are concerned. That's why people believe that it was a stolen election. You can say what you want to say. The Democrats said that Donald Trump rigged the election in 2016.
Who
you
said
remember that? They did it for 3 years. They did an investigation into Donald Trump.
Who said that?
I said, no, they did an investigation into Donald Trump. They said that the Russians colluded with Donald Trump to steal the election.
Who said that it was rigged? Who? Name me one prominent Democrat that said the 2016 election.
Hillary Clinton.
No, she didn't.
Hillary Clinton.
You're a liar. No,
she said it's an illegitimate election.
No, she didn't. Brandon,
put some money on it.
No, you are wrong.
Put $1,000 on it right now. Put $1,000 on it.
Called him illegitimate.
No. Let's put $1,000 on it, and I'll show you that Hillary Clinton said.
Brandon,
you said what?
Do you have $1,000? I don't know.
Dude, I have. What? I'm a millionaire. What are you talking about?
Congratulations on that.
I can give you $1,000. Let's bet $1,000.
Okay, this is the prerequisite. She called him illegitimate. She
said that he's an illegitimate president.
Right, correct. She didn't say that the election was illegitimate, which is what you
said. It was illegitimate because the Russians stole the election.
She never said that the Russians stole the election.
Do you want me to pull a clip up?
She called him illegitimate, illegitimate president.
The Russians interfered and stole the election.
Oh, they did interfere.
She said they stole the election.
Okay, so you're claiming that Hillary said that the election was stolen. Is that what you're saying? Okay, well, you're wrong. You're wrong.
You want to put some money on? We can bet.
I would happily do that. She called him illegitimate. She called him an illegitimate
also said that the election was taken by the Russians. It was an illegitimate. He's an illegitimate president. Why does she say he was illegitimate president?
The same reason why
the Russians helped him get elected.
You're making an assumption.
I didn't make an assumption. She said it. That's why they investigated him.
I say
that
they
investigate him.
They did, and I say that he's an illegitimate president as well because of
what basis?
Because of his behavior, what he said about John.
That's not illegitimate. He legitimately was.
We're entitled to our opinion, Brandon. I think
but this is factual. You're bringing up Hillary Clinton's statement, not yours. I'm not talking about.
She never said the election was stolen. She never said
that the election. They went on the news media for 3 years saying that Donald Trump worked with the Russians to steal the election. You can look it up for yourself.
Brandon,
you don't want to bet me money because you know that.
I'll happily bet you money. I'll happily bet you money, Brandon. She never said that the election was stolen. She never said that it was.
I'll give you a montage. I'll give you a whole montage of everybody in the media saying that Donald Trump.
Listen, we can do montages.
The Russians stole the election.
We could do montages all day long, Brandon. She never said that the election was rigged, which is exactly the term that you just used. She did call him a legitimate president.
They did an investigation.
So now all of a sudden you care about election.
With the Russians to steal the election.
So now all of a sudden you care about election denialism, but yet you have no problem.
I don't care. She can say what she want to say. I don't have a problem with Hillary saying that. They did an investigation. She was wrong. Now, Donald Trump, he hadn't had a chance to go and to be litigated. You can argue what you want. He's the president now.
Okay.
If he was so unpopular, why is he the president today?
We had the lowest approval ratings in the first 100 days in 70 years.
Say whatever approval rating you want. That's like the stock market.
It doesn't matter, right? Anything I give you facts, you say it doesn't matter, and you just brush it off to the side.
You voted for a man that has the lowest approval rating out of any president in history, and was a terrible president.
What do you?
And he was the terrible president. He literally had dementia.
Are you a doctor?
Could not function and run the government.
Are you a doctor?
Which they wrote a book now.
Are you a doctor?
They wrote a book about it.
Oh, what are the sources on that book?
Jay Tapper wrote a book about it. He talked to all the insiders in Washington, D.C.
Name me an insider.
I didn't read the book, but Jay Tapper wrote a whole book.
All of a sudden you have a Joe Biden.
What did Jean Pierre wrote a book?
Name me.
Did Jean Pierre write a book? His press secretary wrote a book.
And what are the sources? Tell me, since you know so much about
the source in a book.
The source.
They said that they talk. They've gone on a tour. You can deny this if you want.
I don't care about.
They've gone on a tour to the View. They've gone on Fox.
Name me one
on
doctor.
every legitimate.
Name me one doctor. I don't care what networks are on. By the way,
they went on every network and claimed that insiders in the Biden administration told them.
Name me one.
He was. You can see it. Can you not see it?
I'm asking you. You can't even name one. You're trying to make a point. You can't even name one. I'm not.
Listen. I don't need to name one. People have wrote a book about it.
Because you can't name one because you don't know what you're talking about. Right.
I don't care
to talk about things that you don't care about. You just
they wrote. There's a book.
It sticks.
There was a book that was written by Jake Tapper.
I understand. He's a reporter. I understand. He's on CNN.
So you're saying he's lying?
Name me one source in the book.
He's saying he's lying.
I'm saying that it was a money grab, just like the shirts that you sell and what you sell on your website. It's a money grab.
Okay, let's prove that the shirts that I sell on my website is a money grab.
I think you're the male version of Candace Owens. That's what you are.
How is that?
I'll explain it. I don't think you believe half the things that you say. I think you say it.
Where's your evidence of that?
I think a lot of middle-aged, crusty white Republicans love you because you say the things that they want to say, and they love hearing a black man say it. I do think you're a grifter.
I don't believe you said I don't believe the things that I say.
I don't think you believe a lot of the things you say.
Name one.
I don't believe Donald Trump. You think that Donald Trump is good for black people? You think that Republicans are good for black people? He's got more
black votes than any. He's gained more black traction and votes from black people than any Republican president.
93% of black women didn't vote for him. Yes, that's
women, but the men voted him in record numbers.
You spew
record numbers.
You spew
record numbers,
talking points, and that's why I say you're the male version of Candace Owens, and you're a grifter. Now I'm trying to be respectful.
You got to give evidence.
I am giving evidence. You fair to ever criticize Donald Trump for anything?
I criticize him all the time.
Oh, yeah, right, all the time. But yet you don't know anything about him in the teenage locker rooms. He won the 2020 election.
I'm talking about the things he's doing as the president of the
United States. Abuse and the way he's treated women.
The president of the United States of America. I criticize him on what he's done as the president.
Okay, and what has he done as the president? That's so great.
Well, what do you want to? Where do you want to start with? I think he's done really well in the economy. I think the tariffs. I think the way he's handled the tariffs. His global leadership, what he's done in the Middle East.
All right, let's talk about
investment.
That.
People have invested money into the United States of America by the trillions.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about world peace. You said one of the reasons why you voted for Donald Trump is for world peace. He said he was going to end the war in the Ukraine in 24 hours. I'm just wondering, how's that working out?
Yeah, but he's making an effort to do it.
Oh, he is? He's making the effort? What has he done?
He's trying to talk to both sides.
What has he done?
Let me finish and don't interrupt me. If you're going to have me on your show to talk, let me talk. He's making an effort to communicate with Putin. He's making an effort with Zelensky. You saw Zelensky come to the White House, and then Zelensky wanted to come back to negotiate about a ceasefire situation. Now, let's move on to Israel. Look at what he's done in Israel.
We'll get to Israel. Okay. You just said he's doing everything he can. He said
I think he's making an effort far more than any other president.
Hold on. You said he said all he had to do is pick up the phone and the war would be over in 24 hours.
Yeah, he can say what he wants to say. That was what he believed at the time.
Yeah, well,
and he's still making an effort.
He campaigned on it, making an effort. Well, he has said every day that Putin wants peace, and every single time he says that, Putin puts on another air raid, and innocent people.
Ukraine just did an air raid on Russia just recently. It destroyed billions of dollars worth of property through drone strikes.
They did not.
It's mutual comeback.
No, it's not.
What is your point, man? Donald Trump got elected for a reason. Donald Trump is doing well with tariffs and the economy.
He's doing well with
the border. He's doing all the things he said he was going to do.
Okay. Yeah. Really? He is? Did he end the war in 24 hours?
Did he end the border?
Did he end the war in 24 hours?
Did he not close the border?
I'm asking you a question. He ran on a couple things, and let's go back to 2016. We're going to hire a special prosecutor.
No, let's go with what he ran on for 2025.
Sure. I'll end the war in 24 hours. I'll end the war in 24 hours.
He said he did say that. It didn't work out that way. What?
Okay. So what? Okay. So if he promises something and it doesn't work out.
4 years. He's got 4 years to fulfill his promises.
He didn't stay 4 years. He ran on I would end the war in 24 hours.
That's fine. If he doesn't do 100% of everything he said he was going to do, is that the end of the world? No.
Okay. So he ran on.
I'm a reasonable person. You're irrational.
Oh, how am I irrational? How am I irrational?
Because I understand that Donald Trump is going to do all he can to better the country. There are things that are going to happen. There's things that are not going to happen. I think he's made a concerted effort to do those things, shutting the border down, working with tariffs to get us better negotiations. We've had over 60 countries go back to the. Listen to me. We had over 60 countries. Listen, we had over 60 countries come to the negotiation table. Our negotiation with tariffs with China He had the tariffs were up at an astronomical number. They are now meeting the negotiate tariff negotiations.
How many negotiations have been made? He said 90 deals in 90 days. Can you please tell me, Brandon, how many deals have been made since you want to talk about this?
I don't know. I was supposed to be on the call today to talk about some of that stuff.
Okay, well, convenient. You don't know. The answer is 0. He hasn't made any negotiations.
Well, that doesn't mean he won't. What are you whining about?
But he said 90 deals in 90 days.
Listen, the difference between you and somebody that, in my opinion, is a high achiever is somebody that's their goal is to accomplish goals that are here. If he falls short from some of the goals in his effort to do it, I understand that. That's reasonable.
Reasonable that he says 90 deals in 90 days, and a couple months into this,
he's pursuing 90 deals in 90 days.
How's that work
out? If you've ever structured deals or did negotiations, they don't always pan out the way you want them to.
Oh, so it hasn't panned out the way he promised they would. Okay, we finally admit.
Yeah, I mean, if he was Jesus Christ of Nazareth, then I would say everything he said would work out perfectly.
Then why does he?
Is he making the effort to do it? The answer is yes. Does he have a plan of action? The answer is yes.
He has the plan. What's the plan of action with China? Since Xi doesn't even want to.
I'm not in the negotiating room, but they did go to negotiate, didn't they? They had a negotiation, didn't they?
How's that going on? How are those negotiations?
I'm not there. Neither are you.
We're not there.
Did they go to the table to negotiate?
So how do you know the negotiations?
Did China agree to negotiate with Donald Trump on tariffs?
President Xi has not spoken to Trump. So how would you say the negotiations are going well when you don't know how those negotiations are going?
I never said that specific negotiations are going well. You asked me the totality of his tariff negotiations. To have people renegotiate and come to the table over 60 countries or so, I think that's a positive. Him going to the table to communicate with the Chinese about tariffs is a positive.
President Xi has not gone to the table with him, and
you can
Donald
say
Trump
whatever you want to say.
No, it's not me. It's the Chinese government.
What is the tariffs? What were the tariffs against the United States of America?
Well, it's not my fault that Taco Trump
and they reduced it down.
Yeah, Donald Trump did because he's a chicken.
And China did too. And China reduced the tariff.
And the American
reduced the tariff.
And the American consumers
China reduced the tariff
because of it. All right, well, listen.
China reduced the tariffs. I buy things that are foreign too, and I know that the tariffs are reduced.
Okay, last thing I want to bring up, Brandon, and I appreciate your time. Last thing I wanted to bring up, you tweeted out about the liberal media panicking when the South African president was invited to the office. You talked about this video that Donald Trump showed. It has since been debunked, this burial site, which was not a burial site. It turns out they were just cross symbols for 2 people that lost their lives. There was no genocide. Why is your tweet still up there? And why don't you retract that and admit that Donald Trump lied?
Here's the thing. Donald Trump did not make the video. Donald Trump misinterpreted what he saw in one portion of the video. The speeches that came from the activists in South Africa, that was what was wrong with that. He said the things he said. The murder to power or whatever he was saying about killing the farmer.
No genocide. It's been proven.
Listen. This is the thing that I think you misconstrue. You want to hate Trump so bad you can't even listen to anything that's being said.
Oh no, I'm listening.
I'm wise enough to say that I saw that video a long time ago. I remember when they set up on the side of the road to do that, and they set up those crosses. I remember that happening. I remember the guy who did a rally in front of millions of people saying "kill the farmer" and all these other things. There are actual farmers who are there that are saying that there's a genocide that's occurring against them. The president of South Africa, brought people there who said that they know people who have been killed.
People who have been killed
in this effort for Africans to take the land back.
Do you not understand the difference between some people being killed and a genocide? Do you not understand?
Hey, you can argue what you want. There are people in South Africa that are saying that are people in South Africa
some people,
that are saying that this is happening.
Some people, just like some people that are saying Donald Trump won the 2020 election.
You can say what you want to say. If people are saying it,
you're right.
People are refugees.
You're right.
They've gotten asylum in America.
You sound like Trump. Some people are saying.
Listen, you got millions of people. You got millions of people at a protest that are saying "kill the farmer." What are they just talking just to say that? There's millions of people there.
Millions of people that are saying "kill the farmer." I'd have to see that video and that.
Did you watch the video?
Millions of people. Yes, I did.
Did you watch the video?
Yes, I did. And those crosses on that field were not.
No. Let's talk about what the South African activist said. What did he say? Do you remember that part, or are you just watching the cross?
Why have you not taken down your tweet, which is
because where did I mention Trump in that tweet?
You can't defend what's on the screen. Donald Trump showed.
Where did I mention Trump in that? Where did I mention Trump in that?
President Trump showed a video. This is your words. President Trump showed a video of what's actually happening in South Africa. That is not a genocide. That field that he showed with the crosses, actually, the people that died Their family has spoken out and said that was awful what Donald Trump did. They've spoken out against it. That was not a genocide.
I have not heard of that.
How convenient. Every time I bring up facts,
you show me the proof and I'll say it. No,
Brandon,
you show me the proof and I'll say it.
Brandon didn't hear about Donald Trump admitted to going into.
Send it to me. Send it to me and I'll recant.
I find
Send it to me and I'll take my tweet down.
I'll tell you what. Okay, here's the deal. I appreciate.
Send it to me. I'll take my tweet down.
Here's the deal. I do appreciate you coming on and willing to have this debate, knowing
you gonna send me the thing so I can take my tweet down?
Yes, I will. If you can do me a favor, Brandon, I'll send it to your assistant, right? I will send him or her the video. I'm happy to do that. And I would love to continue this conversation with you. It's a good spirited debate. And I do respect the fact that you were willing to come on here, knowing that we would not agree on stuff. I do appreciate that. I'm being very sincere. I do appreciate you doing that. That's a lot more than I can say about a lot of other people. So I do appreciate you coming on. And we went a little long here, Brendan, but I would love to do this again with you. I'm happy to do your podcast. I think it's a good debate. And I do appreciate you taking the time, Brendan, to come on. And I will send that to your assistant. I promise you. You have my word on that, okay?
Yeah. The difference between you and I is that if you send me evidence of something that's true, then I will take that evidence and digest it. I'm not going to be in denial. If you send me some clip of him saying that he walked in a locker room with 16-year-old girls, I will take the clip and I'll test it. I've never seen that, and I've never seen this thing where you say that the family has come out against Donald Trump.
I will send that.
Show me.
I will.
You show me evidence, not some hearsay. I'll take that into account.
I appreciate that, and I would ask for you to do the same for me. Show me the evidence that Donald Trump.
What do you need me to show you?
Show me the evidence that Donald Trump won the 2020 election. Please email that to me because I'd love to see the evidence. And
I can show you evidence where people are making the claims. I can show you a documentary where you see people doing things that are cheating in the election.
And where was that proven in a court of law?
No, it's a difference. You said show you evidence versus proven in the court of law. That's two different things.
So people saying thing is evidence?
Well, listen. You asked me to evaluate Donald Trump claiming that he went in a locker room with some girls.
Well, Donald Trump claimed that.
None of that is in the court of law either. So if you want me to take that into consideration.
Okay, when you talk about stealing an election.
Do you want the court of law, or do you want me to take things into consideration based on evidence that I'm going off of?
When it comes to stealing an election, it has to be proven.
It never was brought. It did not have standing, and the courts would not take it.
Trump had the opportunity and his attorneys to present evidence, and they found that there was no merit. And because there was no evidence, and nobody did this,
they didn't have sufficient enough evidence to bring forward the case at the time.
And nobody has presented that since. But I appreciate the conversation. Please send me that. I will gladly email.
Which one you want me to send you? Hillary Clinton?
You can send me anything you want.
We'll send you Hillary Clinton right now. But what like next time we have a conversation, we're going to send you Hillary Clinton. And I want you to just acknowledge.
I'll play it on the air. I'll play it on the air.
Are you going to play it on the air? I'll watch for it.
You have my promise. If you come on the show again.
We're going to send you the Hillary Clinton clip that I told you about. You send me the clips that you said that Donald Trump did all these things.
You have my word.
And we'll come back on the show.
Okay.
I'll come back on your show.
Brandon, you have my word.
We'll talk about the evidence that you sent me, and I'll give you my commentary on it.
You have my word. You send me the audio of her saying that. I'm telling you right now, you have my word. I'll play it when you come on the show. Fair deal?
Perfect. Deal.
Okay. Brandon, I appreciate your time. I really do. Thank you so much for coming on, and we'll talk soon, okay?
All right. Peace.
Thank you, Brandon.
Hey, everybody. Are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premier Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super. Hero, that is. Because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
I want to ask you about Officer Michael Fanone because this is a video that went viral several weeks ago where you're following him in the hotel.
I got 22 years. Now you don't even want to look at my eyes. You cowards. You're a traitor to this country.
You had some friends that were with you that recorded it and right-wing members of the media. What is your issue with Officer Fanone?
My issue comes in specifically with Officer Fanone and Officer Dunn. They weren't part of my trial, but they both sat in for my trial, and specifically Officer Dunn sat at my trial just a couple feet away from my mother. While they sentenced me to 22 years, my mom was sobbing. Officer Dunn laughed. Again, they weren't part of my case, but to me, it was more personal.
Officer Fanone got a traumatic brain injury. I know you've said on the record you do not condone violence. Fanone almost died. I know you didn't beat him, but there were people that did. He was inches from his life. He had a heart attack, traumatic brain injury. Why follow him in a hotel and call him a coward? I don't think Officer Fanone is a coward. I don't think Officer Dunn is a coward. I think the cowards are many of the people that stormed the Capitol that day that were claiming hang Mike Pence and believed in the big lie that the election was stolen, which it wasn't.
Other people might have different views on Officer Fanone. And
What do you think is more serious, though? Somebody that laughs at your mom or somebody that's beaten almost to death because a bunch of mobsters thought that the election was stolen? What do you think is more serious?
We lost that trial because of a biased jury. Not a single one was conservative. Not a single one ever voted for a Republican. I don't think that we'd be having this conversation that we're having now if it would have just simply been moved, let's say Virginia or Maryland or South Florida or something.
Okay, I understand that you feel like you had an unfair trial.
Right? If you kept up that trial, you'd be able to see right through the BS.
But that wouldn't have happened if Donald Trump didn't say the election was stolen and people like you didn't believe it. January 6th wouldn't have happened. If Trump didn't say that the Democrats cheated and Joe Biden cheated, would January 6th have happened?
Here's my problem with that. If Donald Trump wouldn't have said that the election was stolen, that wouldn't have happened. If we go back to 2016, when Hillary Clinton called Trump supporters a basket of deplorables, we were deplatformed. I was personally debanked. Our social media platforms were taken. The COVID lockdowns, the summer of love, I think it was a powder keg waiting to go off. Was that the straw that broke the camel's back, the stolen election? I 100% agree that it was.
You still believe the election was stolen?
I do believe the election.
Where's the evidence of widespread voter fraud that would lead you to believe that the election was stolen?
What convinced me was the judicial process. And I know that they have nothing to do with each other, but the way that the government methodically took us down for a crime that we did not commit leads me to believe that they're capable of so much more.
They beat cops. They pepper sprayed cops. You're okay with those people getting pardons?
I think wholeheartedly, yes. And not for the same reason that a lot of people may think that I'm okay with the pardons, right? The president said these words throughout his campaign, and he said that he was going to look at these cases on a case-by-case basis.
Which they didn't do.
And which they did do. In the 1,600 cases, they got pardoned because of the process, the corrupt process. The only solution was a pardon at this case.
Then don't storm the Capitol. Don't beat police officers. Don't believe in the big lie. And the thing I would say is, Enrique, back in 2015, when Trump was saying the election was going to be rigged, going to be stolen, and then something happened. Donald Trump won a free and fair election. Hillary Clinton conceded. And by the way, I don't blame Democrats or Hillary Clinton for Black Lives Matter protests. And like you, I don't condone violence. But at the same time, Trump won. And then all these discussions about an election being rigged or stolen went away. Why is it that when he wins, everything seems to have gone fine, and when he loses, it must have been rigged? There are a lot of people that claim that you are an informant for the FBI. And in your Miami hearing, a federal prosecutor, a federal Bureau of Investigation agent, and even your own lawyer described you as an undercover worker and had helped authorities prosecute more than a dozen people. On the record, can you admit that that did happen? What do you say to that? If a naysayer of yours said that Enrique Tarrio, he's a narc, what would be your response to that?
I worked with the government in 2013 to take a sex trafficking ring down. So yes, if that's considered a narc, then I'd go ahead and I'd say yes.
What do you think about Gay Pride Month, and what do you think about people that are homosexuals in general?
I don't care who somebody sleeps with, if they want to parade down the streets. I do have a problem. Is it a big percentage of the LGBT? I think it's a very small percentage, but I have a big problem with like drag queen story hour and sexualizing kids. And I think most Americans have a problem with that.
So you have a problem with drag queen reading?
When you do that and you read in front of kids and when your boobs are out and like you're showing skin and you're doing that, I have a problem with it.
No child and parents are forcing their kids to do that. That's a decision that the parents make. Let me ask you a question as far as consistency goes. Would you also agree with me that it's inappropriate for a middle-aged man to go into teenage locker rooms and sexually brag about looking at a bunch of teenagers at a beauty pageant because he owns the pageant?
Well, you could also say as the owner of the pageant, it's your obligation to do that.
So you have done that. Now,
I'll tell you the funniest is that I'll go backstage before a show.
Yes.
And everyone's getting dressed and ready and everything else. And, no men are anywhere. And I'm allowed to go in because I'm the owner of the pageant and therefore I'm inspecting it. I'm inspecting. I want to make sure that
You're like
everything
a doctor.
is good.
You're there.
Yeah, the dress. Is everyone okay? They're standing there with no clothes. Is everybody okay? And you see these incredible looking women. And so I sort of get away with things like that.
Because the guy who you support did that. Would you agree with me that that might be a little bit more harmful than someone in drag reading to kids?
I don't want to comment on it because I don't know the specifics of it.
Trump talked about it on the Howard Stern show, and he admitted sexually into going into women's locker rooms, teenage girl locker rooms, sexually. And I owned the pageant. Okay, you don't like drag queen reading it. You think it's inappropriate. Then why not speak to the president of the United States, who talks about grabbing women by the genitals, who has 5 kids with 3 different women, who has unprotected sex with a porn star 2 weeks after Barron is born, who's a liable sexual abuser, who has 25 women that have accused him of or sexual assault, and the guy who literally bragged on the Howard Stern show about going into teenage girls' locker rooms sexually because he enjoyed it.
I can't comment towards the Howard Stern thing. Maybe at some point I'll come back on your show. You show me the clip, and we'll discuss those things. As far as I'm not looking for like the perfect person. He's a very flawed person. But that's not. I'm not looking at that. I'm looking at his stances on policy. I'm looking at how aggressive he is towards making these changes, and there has been some aggressive changes that's happened in the past 2 months, and those are things I don't care about who he was or what he's done or what he does with his personal life. It's none of my business.
Would you be okay with having a rapist run the country so long as you like some of his policies?
I don't think he's a rapist. So
he's a liable sexual abuser. He's got 25 women that have accused him of rape or sexual assault. We know that for a fact.
Those I go back. I'm not a big fan of the judicial system. Ukraine's going to have to lose a little bit of their country, and that's unfortunate, right? For the Ukrainian people, but that's the truth. That's the nature of war, unfortunately. And
so what will stop Putin from doing it again then? If he gets the land that he wants, like you were just mentioning, and they don't get into NATO, which obviously Putin wants, because it appears as though he's going to get rewarded for invading our allies. What's to stop Putin from doing it again?
I think the EU needs to step up their game when it comes to funding for their military hardware. And I think that we should not get involved.
You don't want boots on the ground. Then why would he threaten boots on the ground in Greenland? Why would he threaten to own or take over Gaza with no plan of how to displacing 2 million Palestinians?
If the people of Greenland want to do that, that's fine. If he were ever to say, hey, I want to put actual boots on the ground, and he was dead serious about it, I wouldn't agree with him on that at all.
Right. We have a treaty with Ukraine, as you know, and we made a promise to them to protect them. Russia didn't offer anything in those talks, and it seems like Russia's not offering any concessions now. And I've never heard the man who you support, Donald Trump, call Putin what he is, which is a dictator. He's responsible for hundreds of thousands of people losing their lives. You've said it yourself. You don't support violence. Okay, good. I appreciate that. We agree. Vladimir Putin, as you know, invaded Ukraine, and Donald Trump is the guy who said that Ukraine started this. Surely you cannot agree with that.
I do believe that statement. They were warned not to try to. How would we like if the Russians went ahead and established a footprint in Mexico, right? That is their border. They don't want them to join NATO, and they were warned multiple times, and they continued to do so. And
so invade a country and kill a bunch of innocent people?
I think that the Russians are doing what the Russians think is best for them.
The Nazis did what they thought was best for them too. That doesn't make it right. Ashley Babbitt, that whole situation was investigated. She was there because she thought the election was stolen, and she tried to break through a window. There was a guy with a gun, and people were heard saying, "There's a gun, there's a gun." She lost her life because of it.
A lieutenant with multiple infractions with his firearm shot 120-pound woman with no weapons or nothing. I believe that she was murdered. I believe that he acted maliciously.
So just let those people break through the window 15 feet away from a bunch of politicians. It wasn't just her. There were 40, 50, 100 people in that room, and he points his weapon. They shouted out multiple times, "He's got a gun, he's got a gun." That did not deter her. And again, 15 feet away from politicians that were there were people there that admitted they wanted to do harm to Mike Pence and some other politicians. What would have happened if that officer had just let them break through that window and got at those politicians? What do you think would have happened next, Enrique?
At that point, you have no other choice but to let them
Then
in.
why is it that I hear people like you complain about some of these Capitol Police officers that let people in? You can't have it both ways. I've heard you and others say, well, there were Capitol Police officers that day that let people in. Well, isn't it the same premise then? You either take out a gun and start shooting people, or if it's 100-1, you let them in. So why would you complain about that then?
Well, I didn't complain about the officers letting anybody in. They did let people in.
So do you agree with that action then, that behavior?
I believe that you shouldn't shoot into a crowd of people.
You either shoot or you let them in.
Yeah, you have two choices. At that point, I believe that he should have let them in, because here's another thing. Let's say they would have broken through, let's say instead of just Ashley Babbitt breaking through the door, those 50 to 100 people that you say, what are 32 rounds going to do? You're going to piss off the crowd, and it would have gotten a lot worse. At that point, there's nothing you can do.
Ashley Babbitt did it to herself. She was radicalized. She should have never been there on that day to begin with. She was breaking.
I disagree with you, and I believe that
she broke the law. Would you agree on that?
So can we agree that George Floyd broke the law?
George Floyd was on his stomach in handcuffs. He wasn't trying to get away. And at the point that Derek Chauvin put his knee on George Floyd's neck for 9 minutes, he wasn't trying to break through a window to try to harm people and cause havoc. And I guarantee you that if Ashley Babbitt was in handcuffs, lying on her stomach, that officer would not have shot him. So I think that's a very false analogy.
It's a beautiful thing, man. And
hero, that is, because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Salone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
You are way too smart, way too talented, way too good to be where you are. You are meant to be making way more money, feel way hotter in your body, and having way more fun. Hi, I'm Nicole Mitchell, and I'm a life coach. I help you get hotter and richer. If that is what you're looking for, you can find me at NicoleMitchell.com. My name, Nicole, is with a K, NicoleMitchell.com. You can reach out to me on the website or on Instagram, and I will be happy to be in touch and figure out what you're looking for and how I can support you in getting there.
Joining us right now on the line is Jeffrey Epstein's brother, Mark Epstein, who was nice enough to join us. Mark, I do appreciate you coming back on the show, sir. How are you?
So far, so how are you?
Doing okay, Mark. I appreciate you being here. I want to get your first reaction to this video that Pam Bondi released, but yet it's a different camera angle. And as you know, there's 1 minute that's missing from this video angle that was outside your brother's cell when he allegedly took his own life. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, did you get the photographs I sent to you?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
Could you put them up? Is that possible?
We will. Yeah, we are going to put those videos up later on in the program. Yeah, absolutely. We're going to do that. But
okay, because my impression was that videos don't show anything.
They don't.
That's real. The pictures I sent you, I have the actual cell door, the Jeffrey cell. I have the picture of the tier that his cell is on, and I have the picture of the entrance to that tier, which is up a bunch of steps. So when I watched the video and they said someone's walking across and they put him into his cell, that's impossible. To get into Jeffrey's cell, you had to go up a flight of stairs into the tier, which has a barred, locked door, and then Jeffrey's cell was to the right of that door. So it's not just a matter of just walking somebody to a door on a flat surface and walking them into the cell. So I don't know what that video was, and the person who was in that video, you can't distinguish who that is. I tried to blow it up as best as I could. You can't see who that is.
Mark, what are they?
I think this is more BS.
Mark, what are they hiding? Why is Pam Bondi and Donald Trump not want to talk about your brother anymore all of a sudden? What are they hiding?
Well, why do they all cover it? Bill Barr started it after Jeffrey's death by stating that because he saw the videotape and nobody went in or out of the tier, that convinced him it was a suicide. Well, there were 12 other inmates on that tier that could have killed somebody, assuming he was killed. Also, to think that somebody could get to that cell, that tier door, go in, kill somebody, and leave completely undetected is just one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. Because there's 6 levels of security before you get to that tier, each with its own locked doors and guards and cameras. So when I first heard Bill Barr state that, I said, wait a second, they're covering something up. But I thought about that before then, because when they did the autopsy for Jeffrey, Dr. Roman, who was a city pathologist doing the autopsy, and Dr. Michael Barden was there witnessing it, they came out of the autopsy room saying they could not call this a suicide because it looked too much like a homicide.
Right.
Now, that fact is ignored and overridden on everything they put out. A few days later, Barbara Sampson, who was the chief medical examiner, she calls it a suicide. And that's what they rely on. They say the chief medical examiner called it a suicide. But let me tell you, Barbara Sampson never saw Jeff's body.
Right.
She was not at the autopsy.
Right.
So what information is she basing that decision on? She refuses to speak.
Here's what I don't understand, Mark. You have Pam Bondi, who's talking a lot about Epstein when she first got this job. You have Dan Bongino and Kash Patel, who are talking about your brother constantly 24/7, it seemed like, for years, including the MAGA base. And now, all of a sudden, Donald Trump is annoyed when he's asked even a question about your brother. Pam Bondi lying, not releasing any of the files or any information. Don't you find it quite bizarre that this has all happened in the last few weeks? And now all of a sudden, it seems like nobody in the Trump administration wants to talk about your brother. What do you make of that?
Well, it's just like their lies are closing in on them. You know, I don't believe no one who looks at all the facts available really believes he committed suicide. It just doesn't make sense. People look at little bits and they question it and they say maybe it's a suicide. But people who have looked at a lot of the information, I can't say all because there's a lot of stuff, but people have looked at a vast majority of it. No one thinks he committed suicide. It doesn't make sense. You know, he had a hearing coming up in a few days to appeal his bail decision. Now, I knew Jeffrey as well as anybody. If he had a chance of getting bail, he would kill himself. Maybe if he had the hearing and the bail was denied, then I can see him taking himself out. And again, I always try to stress that when I first heard that Jeffrey was dead from an apparent suicide, I had no reason to doubt it. And I thought, he was in jail. He was facing a potentially long sentence. He doesn't have any children to worry about. Our parents are gone. He knew he didn't have to worry about me. So I figured, okay, he decided to take himself out. And I respected that. But then when the autopsy was done and they said it looks more like a homicide than a suicide, and Bill Barr came out with that stupid statement, I'm saying, wait a minute, this is not legit. And then we find out cameras weren't working, the guards weren't doing their job, and all these other things. And then I found out about the bail hearing coming up. I knew he had the bail thing coming up. I didn't know when, but it was relatively soon. You know, and it just doesn't make sense.
Mark, I know you're not one that likes.
I've used the example before. And they use it in court. If you go outside your house and the ground is wet and there's puddles and the cars are wet and there's water dripping off the trees, you know it rained. You might not have seen it raining, but you know it rained.
Right.
So I can't point to particular things here, but I sort of know this was not a suicide. Now,
Mark,
and then Kash Patel comes out and says, you know a suicide when you see it. And he states because he's a prosecutor and all sorts of other credentials. And my question is, how many suicides has he actually seen?
That's true.
And he didn't see Jeffrey's body. He wasn't at the autopsy. He wasn't at the prison. So how could he make a stupid statement like that?
That's true.
No credentials. Take Dr. Barden. Dr. Barden has done about 500 autopsies on prison deaths because he's been doing this for over 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Roman, I don't know how many she did, certainly more than one. And they both, in their professional opinion, would not call it a suicide. because it looked too much like a homicide. So I think people are covering up. I think obviously Trump doesn't want to talk about it because it doesn't look good for him.
Mark, I have to ask you this, and again, I know you're not one that likes to speculate, but do you think Donald Trump knows what happened to your brother? Do you think he knows the truth?
Well, I don't like to speculate, but I'd be surprised if he knows the truth. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
he's the president of the United States. Bill Barr was the attorney general who worked for Donald Trump. Kash Patel, the head of the FBI, who works for Donald Trump. Pam Bondi works for Donald Trump. So if they know what's going on, he certainly knows.
And, we've been told that this list was going to come out and all these Democrats were going to be on the list and all these lefties were going to be exposed, right? And now all of a sudden, Pam Bondi is saying there is no list. There's nothing to see here. Stop asking us questions. What do you make of that? I know your number one priority is you want to know the truth, what happened to your brother. And by the way, I don't blame you, and I'm on your side. I do believe he was murdered as well. I don't believe this was a suicide, just like you don't. It makes no sense to me. But don't you find it interesting that we've been hearing for years about this alleged list that was going to be released and all these people on the left that were going to be exposed, Mark? And now all of a sudden that list has disappeared. What do you make of that?
Well, first of all, Jeffrey knew people on both sides of the aisle. He was a very friendly guy, and he knew lots of people. I never really thought there was any kind of list. I don't know what kind of list they were talking about. And again, I'm not a prosecutor. I'm not Jeffrey's defense attorney, so I don't get really into the charges against him. With all the things out there, that's not my job. It's not my position. I'm focusing on the circumstances of his. I used to say on his death. I now say on his murder.
What would you say to Pam Bondi if you had an opportunity to speak with her right now, Mark? What would you say to her?
Just stop bullshitting everybody.
And I would assume
that's what I would say.
I would assume you would probably say the same thing to Donald Trump, correct?
And maybe some other things too, but I would definitely say that, yeah.
Donald Trump. You guys spent some time together with your brother. Is there anything about those conversations that they had that you could share with us? Because, there were times where you guys spent time together.
Well, it wasn't a lot of time. We took a flight up together on Jeff's plane. We flew from Florida to New York, and Donald was with us. I used to fly with Jeff sort of regularly back in those days, but then stopped it, just because it was too inconvenient. Yeah. Because his schedule was varied. But we were on the plane. There was nothing really major or pertinent at that point in time. Yeah. Jeff and Donald were very good friends. They used to fly in each other's planes. They used to hang out together. Donald was at Jeff's office quite a bit. So, Donald comped my mother in Atlantic City and my aunts when I went there for a weekend. They were friends.
Mark,
and I know Donald's trying to distance himself, but I know they were good friends.
When Donald Trump holds a press conference, which he did the other day, and he calls your brother a pedophile, and he calls him a horrible guy, and Pam Bondi says similar things, I'm wondering what goes through your mind when the president of the United States, who was once best friends with your brother, according to your own brother's statements, constantly calls him a pedophile and these other things. What goes through your mind, Mark, when he talks about your brother like that?
Well, look, Jeffrey was guilty of being with women that were too young. I know that. Jeffrey admitted that. So I don't have a problem that they go with pedophile, but I guess by definition you could say that. And again, that's not my concern. My concern was his murder. That's really what I'm focusing on.
I hope you get the truth, Mark. I really do. I'm on your side. I think that the Trump administration has a lot to hide. I don't believe that he took his own life. And just proof of that is, like you said, a couple days he had a court appearance where hopefully he was going to be able to get out on bail, or at least he had the opportunity to. And I think that speaks volumes. It doesn't make any sense to me, Mark. Listen, I'm sorry for what you
just be aware the bail he was offering would have been the highest bail in the United States history, by about 50% higher than the previous highest bail ever. Mm-hmm. So there was maybe a chance he got bail. Because look, in all reality, as distasteful as it might have been to some people, Jeffrey was not yet convicted of anything this time around. Yeah. So he was still innocent by definition, and you're entitled to bail in most cases if you can, satisfy the court's requirements. So well, Mark, chance he could have got bail and he'd be home, living with an ankle bracelet and guards and cameras, but he wouldn't be in the jail.
I don't know if we're ever going to get the truth, Mark. Certainly you deserve it. Your family deserves it. I don't know if we're ever going to get the truth. We're certainly not going to get it when Donald Trump is president of the United States. That's for sure. I think that's already been proven. Listen, Mark, I appreciate your time, my friend.
Well, do me a favor. Look at the pictures I sent you.
I will.
You'll see the entrance to the tier. It's up the steps. You'll see the tier. and you'll see the cell door. Now, Jeff's cell door went in the tier, just so you know, is off to the right when you look at that picture. So his cell door is not visible in that picture of the tier,
right?
Because there are 4 cells on each side of the tier. Jeffrey's the first one, and that's cut off in that photograph. But that's the tier, and you can recognize that tier through the door when you look up the first photograph.
And that just gives us more.
And that's his cell door. So when they say they had photographs of the cell door, you tell me if you've seen that cell door.
No, they're lying.
Any of the videos.
They're lying. No, I can tell you right now, based on what you showed me, this video, they're lying. They're not showing the correct camera angle of your brother's cell. There's a minute that's missing. It shows absolutely nothing, and it proves that they're hiding something. Mark, I'm on your side 100%.
Well, here's another. Wait, one other thing about the videos. After Jeffrey's death, and Bill Barr referred to the video showing nobody went in or out of the tier, and that convinced him of the suicide. I asked for the footage from that camera from 10 o'clock at night until noon the next morning, because since Bill Barr said it showed the door that nobody went in or out of, it would have shown when the last people left that tier about 10:30 at night when they locked it up, and it would have shown when Michael Thomas went in the morning about 6:30 to serve breakfast when he found Jeffrey's body. And would have shown them taking Jeffrey's body off of the tier. It would show who was there, who was involved, maybe who was running the show. Why did they move a dead body when they're not supposed to until the medical examiner comes? There's just so many questions here, so many things that was done wrong, that just to say that this was a suicide and write it off as that is just foolhardy.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Makes no sense.
Makes no sense to me either, Mark. And you deserve the answers. Mark, I always appreciate it when you do this show. I really do, my friend. And we'll talk soon, brother. And if you have any other information you want to share with us, please let me know, okay?
Just look at those photographs. That's plenty of information right there.
Yes, that is true.
What I'm talking about.
That is true, and we will definitely show those. Mark, I appreciate your time, my friend. Thank you very much.
Be well. Stay safe.
Thank you. Mark Epstein, everybody. That's the brother of Jeffrey Epstein. I was just going to say, I have to ask you this. This obviously happened under the Donald Trump first administration. I know this is speculation. I understand that. But with that being said, do you believe that there is a possibility that either Donald Trump or somebody in his administration close in his orbit could have been a part of your brother's demise behind bars?
Well, I look at it this way. Again, I'm told you, I'm reluctant to speculate. I like looking at facts. Bill Barr was the Attorney General of the United States at the time. Bill Barr worked for Donald Trump. Bill Barr came out with that ridiculous statement, which led me to believe initially that it's a cover-up. Until that point in time, I believed that he killed himself. And then there's a lot of other facts that are not general knowledge. In a few days after the death, Jeffrey had a hearing scheduled to appeal the bail decision. Okay, and the bail was being substantially raised. So, maybe unlikely, there's maybe a chance he could have got bail, because it would have been the highest bail ever in the United States.
Right.
That was coming up in a few days. Now, knowing Jeffrey, if he knew this hearing was coming up and he was thinking about killing himself, wouldn't you wait a few days? Because if he got the bail, he'd be living in his house, with armed guards and ankle monitoring cameras. He wouldn't have to languish in jail for a year. If the hearing came up and bail was denied again, I said, okay, he didn't want to be a year in jail, so he killed himself. More understandable. But why would you kill yourself a few days before?
Doesn't make sense.
Trying to post the highest bail in U.S. history.
It's a really good point, Mark, you bring up. Mark, are you in fear of your life that if you're out there and you continue to push for answers, which, by the way, I don't blame you for doing so, are you in fear of your life? Or are you in fear that people will be out to get you because of who your brother was and the fact that you're questioning, the FBI deputy director? Are you in fear for your life?
No, I'm not really in fear of my life. I mean, I'm not. This is why I don't appear on camera anywhere. I don't need people. I travel a lot. I don't need being somewhere with people, recognizing me. But I'm not in fear of my life. No. At the early stages, with the death threats, I was in touch with the New York City Police Department and the FBI. But I'm not really in fear of my life.
Last question, Mark, and I really do appreciate your time. What do you think is the biggest misconception by the general public and the media when it comes to your brother, when it comes to your family, anything? What is the biggest issue that you have that people think about your family or think about your brother that you would want to set the record straight?
I've been asked that a number of times, and I said before, I don't feel it's my job to defend my brother, because he he did things he shouldn't have been doing. Yeah, I'm not trying to say he was an angel, but I don't want to get into the character stuff and the family stuff.
Sure.
I'm
No,
just concerned about. I think my brother was killed, and I just don't want somebody just getting away from it scot-free.
I'm with you on that 150%. Your questions deserve answers, by the way. Do you think you'll ever get them? You think you'll ever get these answers?
Likely not, but I want the questions out there.
Yeah.
Look, we still don't know everything about JFK, right? It's 60 years later.
That's true. That's absolutely true. Have you ever been in the same room and hung out with Donald Trump and your brother Jeffrey Epstein? And if you did, what was that like? That had to be kind of interesting. What was that like? Can I ask you this just to start? What was your first reaction yesterday when you heard that Elon Musk put out this tweet claiming that Donald Trump is, quote, all over the Epstein files? What was your reaction to that, Mark, being Jeffrey's brother?
Well, my first question is, which Epstein files are they talking about? Are they talking about the files related to the charges against him, or are they talking about the files related to his murder? There's two sets of files, in a sense. And, so if it's the files about his charges, well, back in the 90s and that period of time, they were very good friends. They spent a lot of time together. Trump was in Jeffrey's office quite a lot. They used to fly in each other's planes to and from Florida. So, I mean, I wasn't there, but I know that, Jeffrey would tell me things, and they were good friends back then. Those files. So I don't know what's going to be in those files. I mean, we also have seen the photographs of them together in different settings. But then there's the file of the murder. Okay. Right. I mean, the Justice Department report is filled with inaccuracies, and it's obviously a cover-up. So was Trump involved with that? A lot of people think that, and they tell me they think that Trump had Jeffrey killed to shut him up, because I do know Jeffrey had dirt on Trump. I don't know what he knew, but he told me he had dirt on Trump.
So your brother,
the Justice Department cover it up. Who else can do something like that?
What can you tell us about that? So you're saying, Mark, that you've had conversations with your late brother, Jeffrey Epstein, and Jeffrey Epstein told you that he, quote, had dirt on Donald Trump. What can you tell us about that?
Well, I've already said in the past that in the 2016 election, Jeffrey said that if he said what he knew about both candidates, they'd have to cancel the election.
Wow. Do you believe that was illegal activity that he had?
I don't know what it was, but it was enough that Jeffrey thought they'd have to cancel the election. And he said, I don't know what the information was, but Jeffrey wouldn't say something like that to me unless he had information that would be damaging.
So, Mark, do you believe that information that your brother Jeffrey told you that he had on Donald Trump could be the reason why your brother is not alive today?
Yes, I believe that.
Wow. That's so. What Elon Musk said, it's fair to say that you think there could be a lot of relevance. Do you think Elon Musk knows something that the general public does not know?
I think so. I don't know why else he would come out with a statement like that.
Because that would be a blatant lie that could be easily proven. Do you believe that the reason why Pam Bondi and Donald Trump's administration has not released the Epstein files is because it's damning and Donald Trump's name is, quote, all over it?
I really don't want to speculate. I don't know why it's not being released. I mean, that's a possibility, but that's not my call to make.
Right. No, I certainly understand that. But do you think, in a sense, this is a positive that it sheds more light and maybe you'll get a little bit more information? I don't know if you will, about what happened to your brother behind bars.
I hope we can, but it's been an uphill battle because, like I said, it's obviously a cover-up. Because if you took the time to read the Justice Department report that came out 4 years after the death, there's a lot of things in there that's just bullshit. Like it says, they notified me after the death. They never notified me after the death. I heard about it on CNN.
Right.
I was having breakfast and boom, I hear on CNN.
That's horrible. That's horrible.
Yeah,
that's not the way you want to find out.
And there's no mention in the official report that the initial autopsy showed that it looked more like a homicide than a suicide. Those results have been glossed over. It's not even mentioned.
Yeah,
they just said that the chief pathologist called it a suicide, and she never saw the body.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of shenanigans going on there and a lot of people withholding a lot of information. If you're just joining us, his name is Mark Epstein. He is the brother of the late Jeffrey Epstein, joining us right now on the line. So, Mark, I'm sure you've been asked this question before. You hear about the term Epstein Island. Do you believe Donald Trump was ever on Epstein Island with your brother?
I have no idea. I really don't know.
Have you ever been in the same room and hung out with Donald Trump and your brother Jeffrey Epstein? And if you did, what was that like? That had to be kind of interesting. What was that like?
The only time the three of us were together was back in 1999, and I flew up from Florida with Jeff, and Donald was on the plane with us. That's the only time. And then it was just like a funny thing. I mean, Donald was a funny guy. Jeffrey always said he was funny. And, we were talking just, that's the only time we ever spent together.
Why do you think that friendship kind of ended? Because from what I understand is that your brother and Trump, their relationship wasn't so great the last several years of his life. What do you know about that?
Well, I know Jeffrey said he stopped hanging out with Donald when he realized Trump was a crook. That's a quote. That's what he said. Interesting. And so because you hear a lot of stuff from MAGA world that Trump didn't want to hang out with your brother because of maybe the alleged shenanigans that your brother was involved with. Do you believe that to be a lie? And you're saying that it was your brother that actually did not want to hang out with Donald Trump. Well, I told you what I know. I told you the last time. I don't like to speculate. Sure. I like to stick with facts. And Jeffrey said that he stopped hanging out with Donald when he realized that he was a crook. I don't know what Donald's side of the story is. I wasn't there. I can't corroborate what Donald might say, but I can tell you what my brother said. Understood. Mark, what would you say to so many MAGA Republicans out there that are, I would use the term cultist when it comes to Donald Trump? They say, nope, Donald Trump did no wrong. He had nothing to do with your brother's death. He wasn't hanging out with your brother at all. They weren't really friends, and this is all nonsense. Elon Musk is a liar. I'm curious, Mark, what would you say to those people? I really wouldn't say anything to them because, people who, they always say people are entitled to their own opinion, but not their own facts. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and people who work on their own facts, they're impossible to convince. So it's a waste of time to try to convince them because, I could tell them to read the Justice Department report, look at the discrepancies in it, but they're not going to. Mm-hmm. So it's sort of like, you can't convince them that they're wrong or that they have their opinions are not facts. Mm-hmm. So, it would be a waste of time. And that's not my job. Sure. That's not my position. Yeah. Do you think in the next 3.5 years anyway, do you think the Epstein files will ever be released? Do you think you'll ever get the answers that you're looking for and the American people will? I have no idea. I wish we do, but I can't predict. Yeah. Well, Mark, listen, I appreciate your time. I'm sorry with what you've had to go through in your family. You deserve the answers, and I do appreciate you coming on and joining us. And we'll see how this thing plays out. But I was surprised, as I'm sure you were, when you saw that Elon Musk tweeted this out about Donald Trump. Right? I mean, I certainly didn't see this coming. I don't think you did either. Right? No, I didn't. It was a surprise. I was busy all day yesterday. I found out about it when a number of journalists called me to get my reaction to it, and I didn't know what they were talking about at first. How many? Just they're acting like children. No, right. Let me fix that because there's a lot of wonderful children out there that anybody would be proud to be parents of. They're acting like spoiled brat kids. The kind of kids that get sent away to military schools to get some discipline in them. Yeah. No, I understand that. This is some crazy times that we are living in. I hope you get the answers that you deserve, Mark. And I do appreciate you coming back on the show and being honest with us. It means a lot. And I can imagine you have a lot of people that want to talk to you. So I really do appreciate you coming on, Mark. And I wish you the best, my friend. Thank you so much for coming on.
Hey, everybody. Are you struggling?
Now,
Worry no more. Salone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Rio Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super. Hero, that is, because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Salone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
Who would have thought there'd be so many kids playing ice hockey in the desert? Jake Helps Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, founded by Gina Yusufzai 8 years ago, made it possible for families who can't afford the equipment and fees. Donate today at www.hockeyforkids.org and help us continue making a difference. Join us in supporting Jake Helps Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, where every kid gets a shot at the starting line. Just a reminder, our website is www.hockeyforkids.org.
You are way too smart, way too talented, way too good to be where you are. You are meant to be making way more money, feel way hotter in your body, and having way more fun. Hi, I'm Nicole Mitchell, and I'm a life coach. I help you get hotter and richer. If that is what you're looking for, you can find me at NicoleMitchell.com. My name, Nicole, is with a K, NicoleMitchell.com. You can reach out to me on my website or on Instagram, and I will be happy to be in touch and figure out what you're looking for and how I can support you in getting there.
I've ever asked you this question of all the clients that you've represented here. Have any of your clients ever accused Donald Trump of any criminal wrongdoing at all, to your knowledge? The lovely lady joining us on the line right now, I have so much respect for her. She's such a great attorney, and she's had such an incredible career in defending and supporting those, especially women that have been victims of abuse. And she has also been a part of this in a way in defending and representing some victims allegedly in the Epstein files. Of course, I'm talking about friend of the show, Gloria Allred, who always is so nice for their time with us. Gloria, thank you so much for being here. How are you?
Just fine, and thank you very much for inviting me to be with you. It's always a pleasure. Thank you, Brian.
Appreciate it, Gloria. And I saw you on CNN last night, and we did not know that this was going to happen, where all these files are now released. I want to get your first reaction to this, where we see in these files that we at least have allegedly one victim who claimed allegedly that Donald Trump raped her. And then she commits suicide, but local law enforcement are claiming that they didn't believe it was a suicide. I'm just wondering, what is your reaction when you heard of this?
I don't know about that, but I will say this. I've represented 27 victims, survivors of Jeffrey Epstein, and according to the law, every file of the hundreds of thousands of pages was supposed to be released on Friday night, according to the Epstein Files Transparency Act. As we all know now, it was not all released on Friday, December 19th. So there's a drip, drip, drip with more being released today. And, a promise that by the end of the year, which is very soon, that the remainder will be released. That is not what the law requires. It's a violation of the laws. And in addition, a priority was supposed to be, again, consistent with the law, that names of survivors were to be redacted. In other words, erased, not published. That's not what happened. I found out on Saturday morning that that we had given names to the Department of Justice to be redacted, but they were published and not redacted. So our legal team jumped into action. We contacted the Department of Justice, and they, I will say, did take immediate action. They have a special team in charge of redacting what should have been redacted, correcting, and they did remove the names ASAP. But the name should not have been published in the first place.
That's horrible.
And the names of family members also are to be redacted, because that could be used to identify the survivor.
Of course.
So that's where we are. And in addition to, of course, lots of content about famous figures who may or may not have been involved in any activity that they shouldn't have been.
Do you find it interesting, Gloria, that, they release all these photos of Bill Clinton and the DOJ basically doesn't say anything, but yet this morning, when they know all this information is out about Donald Trump, then they put out a warning basically saying, don't believe what you read. I mean, that's really what they said in a tweet this morning. But all this other stuff, they didn't put out any of those types of warnings. Do you find that interesting?
I think what you're pointing out, Brian, is extremely important. It is not appropriate for the Department of Justice, which is supposed to be independent from the president, but we all know that it's not. It's like his private law firm. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche is in charge of overseeing the release of the files, and he was formerly the criminal defense attorney for the president when the president, who was not serving as president at the time, but had formerly been president, was convicted of 34 felonies in a New York court. So no, it's not appropriate for them to say, don't believe this person, But they, the assumption is, but you can believe everything about everybody else.
Sure.
No, that's not appropriate. It's not even close to being appropriate.
Gloria, I know that, your responsibility and what you do, you want justice for the victims. And I totally
Correct.
respect that. That should be number one. But I have to ask you about this because Mark Epstein has done this show before. I like Mark. And Epstein, apparently in the files that were released last night, told the FBI that he believed that his brother was murdered, claimed that Trump authorized it. Now, obviously, you don't know. We don't know everything involved with that.
Mm-hmm.
But Epstein said to the FBI that he believed that his brother was about to name names. It says that in the files. I mean, that's pretty damning stuff. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I don't know what Epstein, that is Jeffrey Epstein, was about to do or not do.
Mm-hmm.
But, I respect the right of his brother to draw conclusions that he wishes to draw and state his views. I know there's controversy over whether the death of Jeffrey Epstein was a suicide or a homicide. I'm not ready to say because I don't know, and I have reviewed some of the materials, and I just really don't know. It's very suspicious. We know that. It's a failure of the system once again in reference to the victims, because many of the survivors were happy when he was arrested because he got a sweetheart deal in 2008, which was mysterious and suspicious and failed the victims. And now, because of his death, they're unable to confront him in a court of law, as many of them wish to do, and testify against him. So it just adds to the mystery as to why. And I have a feeling that mystery will remain. And you know what? When there's a vacuum of information, that leads to conspiracy theories, which may or may not have a basis in fact. I don't know.
I want to, Gloria, I want to ask you, with your legal expertise, you had Kash Patel under oath that said, quote, there was no credible evidence that he saw of sex trafficking. One prominent accuser, Virginia Giuffre, accused Maxwell of recruiting her from Mar-a-Lago. And my understanding is that there's far more information that has come out, evidence that there was sex trafficking going on. Do you believe Kash Patel should maybe face some consequences for that? It appears as though he lied under oath.
Well, I don't know if he lied or that was just his opinion, but I will say this. Ms. Maxwell was convicted of sex trafficking,
right?
Of conspiring, let's put it this way, to sex traffic with Jeffrey Epstein, to sex traffic underage girls. So I don't, I don't have a lot of confidence in Kash Patel and his opinions and statements, or even his qualifications to be head of the FBI. So I guess everybody could judge for themselves.
Gloria, you represented dozens of victims in regards to Jeffrey Epstein. Do you believe that Pam Bondi and Kash Patel are hiding something?
It doesn't promote a lot of confidence in the Department of Justice of the United States when they're not complying with the law. When she states she has or suggests that she has the client list on her desk, and then later that it's stated that there is no client list. That doesn't promote confidence. I mean, the survivors have been failed so many times. And for me, as an attorney who has lots of cases in addition to the Jeffrey Epstein case, I like to have my clients have confidence in the Department of Justice, that there will be some justice. But right now, it seems like in many ways it's the Department of Injustice. And I can't tell them to have confidence in them when we're told that their names will be redacted and then they're not. When sweetheart deals are made against a perpetrator of child sexual abuse, when he dies mysteriously in prison, when Ms. Maxwell is visited by the deputy attorney of the United States and asked questions, and then she's looking for a pardon or a commutation from the president whom she knows, And also the Deputy Attorney General says, after he's criticized for some of the questions he asked and for not referring to some of the evidence that was clearly in the possession of the estate, because the estate of Jeffrey Epstein provided it to the Congress when there was a subpoena. Like, why didn't the Department of Justice subpoena it? Why didn't they have it?
That's a very valid question. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, how can I tell them to have confidence?
No,
And
you're
that is a problem, because if they can't have confidence, that many victims of others will be afraid or not feel comfortable reporting to the Department of Justice sexual predators of underage girls. They're not pedophiles we're talking about. We're talking about predators, child molesters.
Yeah.
Why would they have confidence that these people will be prosecuted when in like one of the biggest criminal sex trafficking of children cases of our time, we can't have confidence in what they're doing out there?
I could not agree with you more. 10 co-conspirators in these files. Not one name has been let out to the general public. Why do you think with these 10 co-conspirators, no charges were ever filed? I know that's the big question. Why?
It is a big question. And the answer can be found potentially two places. The federal prosecutor back in 2007, who wrote a long memo and also had created a 60-page indictment of Jeffrey Epstein for the federal, for the United States Attorney, for the Department of Justice to file. We have to see her memo of, who she thought should be prosecuted, co-conspirators, if she did indicate some there. And also we have to see what she wanted to file. The numerous felonies against Jeffrey Epstein, who knows who else. We don't have that information yet. Okay. That would be potentially, Brian, a roadmap to what should have happened, could have happened, but instead, Jeffrey Epstein's case was transferred to the state prosecutor, the district attorney, rather than the federal prosecutor. And he only ended up, I think, maybe with one, maybe with two counts against him for soliciting an act of prostitution with a minor, for which he was sentenced to 13 months in jail and was allowed to leave every day and go to his office, where now it's alleged that he sexually abused girls in his office and then returned at night to the jail to sleep. What a sweetheart deal. It has to be explained to Alex Acosta, who was the United States Attorney for the Department of Justice at the time in the Trump administration. Has a lot of explaining to do, as they say in the South. He did apparently give his deposition to the Congress, but that has not been released. Let him testify publicly. Require him to do that at
Under
a
oath.
congressional hearing. Let's get the facts, man. Nothing but the facts.
Sadly,
Let's find out what
Gloria, I think there are a lot of MAGA Republicans in D.C. that do not want the facts. That's just my personal opinion. I don't think I've ever asked you this question. Of all the clients that you've represented here, have any of your clients ever accused Donald Trump of any criminal wrongdoing at all, to your knowledge?
I cannot disclose what my clients tell me. That's attorney-client confidential communication, and they have that privilege under the law, and so I can't disclose that. They
Understood.
could.
Yeah, no, I totally understand that, and I appreciate you answering all my questions. I always do, Gloria. I have a feeling this story is not going away. Number one, and I think we will 100% agree on this. While yes, this allegedly involves the president and a lot of powerful figures, and I think a lot of people on the left have said, including Bill Clinton, release everything. We need justice for the victims, many of whom you represent. That should be number one here. It doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter whether you're a Republican or a Democrat. What matters is we need justice for the victims. You've been doing this your entire life. And that's what gets me more angry. And I know it gets you so angry. This shouldn't be about politics. Obviously, if the president of the United States did anything in there, we should know about that. But I don't care whether it's a Republican or a Democrat. And can you just emphasize how important that should be?
I agree with you 100%, Brian.
Yeah.
There is now a political battle which I always say politics is a blood sport. It's ugly. It's accusatory. Sometimes it gets to the truth and sometimes it doesn't. But having said that, I am all about justice for my clients and protecting my clients so they don't, become roadkill in this political battle, and they achieve justice and respect and dignity and accountability against third parties. Yes, President Clinton said, look, whatever there is in the file, just get it all out, because he doesn't feel he needs to be protected from anything because he didn't do anything wrong. And I think that should be true for anything involving the president as well. Get it all out. He's obviously in the files. He knows he's in the files.
Right.
In the words of his chief of staff, Susie Wiles, he didn't do anything awful. So let's just get it all out for both of them.
Yeah.
The president yesterday appeared to express some sympathy for former President Clinton.
Yeah.
I guess President Clinton is not on his list when he formally said prominent Democrats should be investigated.
Yeah.
Well, again, why not prominent Republicans? Why not independents? Why not people with no political affiliation? Why is it only Democrats?
Yeah.
So that's a political decision. And I just want all the facts, truth and transparency, and potentially accountability for third persons, rich, powerful men who might have sexually exploited and or trafficked, supported, enabled, conspired with Epstein and or Maxwell to sexually exploit underage girls and also adult women. We want those names. We want to know, is there sufficient evidence to prosecute any of them? If so, let's see it. Let's see the evidence. And if not, we want to know why not. That's what it's all about.
Will there be last question? Will there be a time where perhaps the alleged victims that you are representing, that information could come out to the general public on any claims that they may or may not have with prominent figures, whether that be the president or others? Will there be a time where maybe the public might be able to see that?
Well, the answer is the following. Many of them did speak to federal investigators and give what's called a 302 statement and or prosecutors. So what they said should come out under the law, but not their names and not any identifying information.
Of course. Good.
So a lot of that is not out yet. And so that's an answer to your question.
Okay.
And we have to look. And by the way, we need these files to be more easily searchable for the general public. Because right now there's like a bunch of dots all over the place, but we got to connect the dots for them easily so the public can make sense of this, so that the press can make sense of it. And then there's also the problem of some files wrongly published, taken off, redacted, put back, or not put back. So this whole thing is sloppy. It's a mess. And it's just, really disrespectful to both the public and also to the survivors.
Gloria, I couldn't agree with you more. My thoughts are with all the victims, including those who you represent. We want them to get justice. Please keep up the fight. Keep up the great work. I always love to hear from you, and always are gracious with your time on this show, Gloria. Please keep up the great work. And
Thank you. You too.